Oh, welcome to another episode of the Knock On Podcast, brought to you by the good people at Zero Tackle. And Dan, rugby league is the game that keeps on giving. But we're not talking about what's happening on the field. What's happening off the field?
Nothing at all, Terry. There's absolutely nothing discussed. We were sitting here earlier thinking, or last night going, God, what are we going to talk about? And then Daly Cherry-Evans lobbed the mother of all rugby league grenades, and we're here to discuss. We could do half an hour on this one bloke. What hasn't been said? Mate, I'm just going to hand it to you, and we'll see where this goes. DCE.
Look, my first thought is this a ploy for him to actually get Manly to stump up, not the money, but the second year, Dan? Mm-hmm. Apparently, the falling out between he and Manly is that they won't offer him the second year. Now, I think he's 35 or 36? He's still a top 4 or 5 halfback in the game, and you probably have him third.
Yeah.
You got to pay it, and you got to give him what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? If the second year doesn't work out, then you just don't re-sign him after that. But the way he started the year, he's still kicking well, he's still running well, he's still defending well. He's putting his neck out.
Nah.
Yeah, I really, really do not get this from Manly. And the fact that he was able to go on television and air the dirty laundry, to me, it says that I don't think that they can come back.
Isn't it perfect that an hour and a half before he was meant to go on, not prime time, because it was 9 o'clock television, and tell his side of the story, this just magically leaked, as if it were meant to be. Did you see on NRL 360 though? The Manly hierarchy, I can't remember who it was, rang up and said, we're going to offer him the second part of the deal after he's done tonight, etc., etc. That got through to Cherry-Evans. He said, respectfully, no.
Yeah.
Something has to have happened, mate, because this bloke's been at Manly for 10 plus years now. We know because he signed that monster contract 10 years ago. We saw the fans. We had mates of ours making breakup song lists. And, of course, it was all in jest, but it's also like, this guy's all most fans have ever known as a halfback. To think that this is all over 1 year, I just can't believe that. There's rumours of him falling out. There's rumours of other players being let go to suit Cherry-Evans, and it hasn't, worked out. Humphries is the name I thrown out. I don't know if there's any truth to that, especially because he was playing hooker. I would have kept him on as a hooker, just quietly. But he's gone. Schuster was the next 5'8". He's gone, probably for a good thing. K.O. Weeks is
the Fainus.
The Fainus. Mate, I just think this is Adam Reynolds all over again. South is still looking for a halfback. Meanwhile, Adam Reynolds is still playing super, super well at the end of his contract that they wouldn't sign him to, and he's talking another 2 years. If Manly are going to lose him over 1 year, then this may be the biggest error. I know he's 36 or whatever, he's 38. But what the hell are they going to do? I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah, I know. I've seen some of the teams that he's been linked with, like the Dolphins, the name out there. Like, I think that's just a cheap, they've got young Katoa. He's their halfback, right? Are you going to stunt his growth?
Moving it.
I mean, he can go and play 5'8". I get that. The Roosters is the easy link as well. And I think the Smoky in this will obviously be the Bulldogs. But yeah, I think Manly, when you're getting a player like that at his age, you kind of have to listen. Now, I know since he's been there, he's only delivered 1 premiership, and that was in his rookie year. And the 10 years, have been prelims or whatever.
Guess on.
But he is still a great servant. He's a legend of that club. I don't know. I honestly don't know what Manly were thinking and how they let it get to this situation here.
I 100% hear that he's had the one title, and there was someone that came out and said he's won less finals games than a whole lot of halfbacks you wouldn't put anywhere near the Cherry-Evans. But the fact is, the reason Manly aren't winning isn't because one of the best halfbacks in the game, who is also playing Origin and is delivering on the big stage every time, isn't getting them to a grand final or whatever. It's because their supplementary pieces aren't good enough. I get that he's 36 and he wants decent money, but it's not like it's some 36-year-old guy who's coming off the bench like a Marty Tapau, and I don't mean to throw him out there. I can't think of a player who's, at their tail end of his career at that age. Cherry-Evans can go for another 2. diet's different, training's different, recovery's different now. We can see players go longer. We saw Cam Smith play late. We saw Cooper Cronk play late, and Cronk went out with 2 premierships. There's no reason Cherry-Evans can't do that other than maybe Manly can't get there with Turbo not 100% fit. I think he's going to walk into that Roosters team, mate, and I think Nick Politis has got a smile from ear to ear right now. Look, I want to throw the Titans in because, one, it's hilarious, and two, they may say, look, AJ Brimson, you'd surplus, and Manly are going to go, cool, we'll put him at 5'8" and move Brooks to 7. I think there's a lot to play out here, but I think the fact that he went live with it rather than evidently told him in December or something, it can't be fixed.
No. And look, someone turned around and said, he got married in the off-season and he didn't invite Seabold. But I got married on Friday and no one from my work came.
Yeah. You can't invite everyone to your wedding, mate.
No.
It's just not possible. But we could go on, honestly, for half an hour here. So we'll move on to the next one. One of the Manly, again, I didn't look at names. I was trying to stay out of this so we could discuss it and come up new. The talk is that one of the left field options could be considering Tommy Turbo moving to 5'8". Now, we sat here on this very show last year and said he should move to the centre. He's injured again at fullback. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are Tommy Turbo at 5'8" sucks.
Wow.
Before it even happens.
Pretty handy player, good ball player. You don't see it working?
He's a very, very handy ball player, 2 or 3 off the ruck.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly 3 off the ruck. Yeah, no.
I don't think this...
Imagine him trying to kick the ball down, feel that hamstring's going to ping.
I can't see this happening. I think it was just one of those things they throw out there. But Luke Brooks is a pretty handy 7. He's won a Daly M award there, and he's looked great since he's moved to Manly. So they can sign a 5'8", shift him. I think it'll be more Brimson, or there was a couple of other things today. Adam Reynolds could go back to Sydney and go to Manly, straight swap to go to the Broncos. They're in a title window. That'd make a lot of sense. A lot of fantasy booking, of course. But Turbo to 5'8" just seems like one of those. Lockyer did it, and that worked out pretty well. Matt Moylan was probably the only one I could think of that was more a win than a loss, but he couldn't play fullback. I just think that's pretty dumb.
Yeah, I hope they do it. I really, really hope they do it. Let's just say that.
Take your best fullback and make him a 5'8". Although Lehi Hopewadi's playing pretty well at the back, so maybe that unlocks something in him.
Just put him in the centers.
Yeah, put him in the centers. There's going to be so many names. I'm actually putting a top 7 because he's half.
You know what Manly could do if they don't know what to do with Turbo? Release him. We'll take him at Cronulla.
That could do. They could have Kennedy. He'd make a handy 6, maybe. Who cares? K Dykes might be free. Look, we'll discuss more next week on potential replacements because this ain't going anywhere quick. Something else that's not going anywhere, mate. Kalyn Ponga, linked to the Roosters every single day of every single year, pretty much since he played some Cowboys. Newcastle come out and said they're about to make him the richest player in NRL history. Considering what they did, 2 weeks ago, and making Dylan Brown the richest player in NRL history, what's this deal going to be? 11 years at $2 million? Newcastle tying way too much up in 2 players.
Yeah, look, I don't know, because you see lots of clubs, like our club, for example, have got 2 players on $1 million each. There are lots of clubs that have players on $1 million. What you're talking about though is Dylan Brown is 1.3, and they're talking about Ponga being anywhere from like 1.5 to 2 with incentives. That there says that Newcastle are either just purely going to rely on talent coming through the Hunter and hope they can develop, or they have come to the realization that they can't really recruit and attract anymore. So they're just trying to keep it, I don't know, because that's like 30-something% of the cap tied up on 2 players. Yeah, it hurts.
You put Bradman Best, who's on a big paycheck, and that Fletcher Sharp just signed a big upgrade. So they're going to have potentially half their cap in 4 players. I think Manly's the only team that I can put in that ilk, and we see they're going to lose their halfback. So I don't love it.
Yeah, I don't love it, but for Newcastle, I don't hate it, right? If it was a Sydney team trying to make this move, you'd be sitting there going, well, why? Sydney's it sort of doesn't matter where you are in Sydney because they can always go and live somewhere else.
Mm.
You know, like if you're talking about, Penrith is not the most attractive place to live, but you can go and live 40 minutes away and live in a nice area. You know what I mean? Newcastle, it's hard to attract players. Their production line hasn't been real good lately, so they've got to try something. But yeah, I don't know.
I'll be all for this if Dylan Brown was signed to 3 years. Because if he bombs, who cares? It's a 3-year deal. $1 million for a 5'8" isn't that much. He's signed for 10. Ponga's going to be 6, 7, 8, 9. He could be another 10, and he's only 24 or something. We could have 2 players signed to 10-year deals here on a combined $3 million. That's what they're looking at. If something goes wrong, and God forbid, and we don't wish this, of course, one gets injured, or one, decides, hey, this rugby league thing isn't for me, it completely throws their cap out. You can't just bail on big deals like this and be like, oh, you know what? We're just going to send him to England because you're paying 3/4 of it no matter where it goes if it goes wrong. They need to keep Ponga. He is Newcastle. If he goes tomorrow, Newcastle could fold as far as I'm concerned. They want to keep him away from the Roosters. They're going to pay him whatever they want. But their New South Wales Cup team has been pretty dreadful for a lot of years. Their fleet teams had some wins, lost some players, mainly to the bigger clubs. This just reeks of desperation.
Yeah, it does reek of desperation, but Newcastle have to do it. They have to. It's straight up. They have to do it.
Completely fair. From the poorhouse to the penthouse, mate. The Penrith Panthers, 2025 the year we finally see them slip. Now they are 1-2. They've lost their fullback for the next 4 weeks. Nathan Cleary's got a concussion. May play Thursday, but it hasn't been named. It looks like they're gonna just let that rest. They've brought up a kid from reserve grade, which makes 2 rookie halves. Rookie fullback, Dan Laurie. I actually quite like him. I take that back.
Yeah, I like him.
Is this the year Penrith just...
I mean, if Penrith finished 4th, would you still write them off?
Not in a million years, no. That's why I'm asking
No.
you.
Yeah, no, I like... We every year you expect this about Melbourne, right? And you have a look at how much deeper Penrith are than Melbourne. I think they're going to be all right. Like, if you're talking about, you and I always say the finals race starts in round 20.
Mm-hmm.
So don't judge anything about Penrith until round 20 because the fact that they could go and rattle off 5 wins in a row and you see anyone who's bagged them out will be sitting there going, oh geez, they're now 5-2. But I do think that in years gone by when they've been able to go, oh, when Cleary's out, we've still got Luai, or when someone else is gone, we've still got this international player. Those players are going. Those players have moved on. They've taken their bigger paydays. So now they're like, okay, maybe the player who we thought was going to be earmarked for 1 or 2 years down the track has had to step up earlier, and they're going to get a little bit of teething pains. But I'll say this: no matter Ivan Cleary is the coach and Isaac Yeo on the field, I will not write them off.
I heard a lot of people come out and say, geez, they lost to Melbourne, and we didn't expect that. No Dylan Edwards. Nathan Cleary was KO'd inside 10 minutes. I think it was about 7 minutes in. And they almost beat Melbourne at home. It's only that Pappenhausen and Cam Munster combined. Full strength Melbourne, it must be worth saying. In the
5 tries apiece. If Paul Alamodi could kick like Nathan Cleary, you're talking about golden point.
Exactly.
And Penrith are finishing heavier.
So I'm not worried if I'm a Penrith fan at all. I do feel like they've lost Luai and they can't rely on their next superstar. It's going to have to come from one of the halves. We'll touch on that in a minute. They have lost their Stephen Crichton and James Fisher-Harris over the past 2 years. Their leadership is a little bit thin, but we've seen Isaiah Papali'i just slot back in and become one of the best forwards in the game. We've seen Paul Alamodi turn from an absolute pumpkin into a superstar in the centre of a wing. Their leading jersey flag, the only game they lost in New South Wales Cup is to the Jets, who are the defending champions, and only just got them out there. Anyone that's worried about Penrith, do not waste your time. One thing I'm a little bit worried about, though, is Blaize Talagi, who was signed as the heir apparent to Jerome Luai, was overlooked to start the season. They had a bit of a disrupted preseason. Looked pretty ordinary in New South Wales Cup against the Jets. Again, defending premiers. It's not like they're playing bums. Last week, we saw Cleary come off with a HA. Blaize Talagi looked pretty good at 5'8". It's been overlooked this week for a rookie who's coming off the bench. Are you worried about Blaize Talagi, or are they just easing him into the system?
They're easing him into the system. He had off-season surgery and it took a lot longer to recover. Like, not, when when you hear a recovery time for a surgery and they say 8 to 10 weeks, that's best case scenario because they never give you the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
They're never going to turn around to you and say, hey, by the way, this surgery could be 14 to 16 weeks. So Penrith probably had the game plan of, hey, Blaize Talagi, we're not going to fly him over to Vegas. He can play in Penrith, in New South Wales Cup, and we'll ease him back into it. And now all of a sudden, injuries have happened. He's had to step into a game. I'm not worried about Blaize Talagi. That kid has got talent oozing out of his body. He'll be fine.
The only reason I bring this up is because when Dylan Edwards went down, I expected Talagi to go straight in at fullback, where he played a lot for Parramatta, especially in the juniors, and started a bit last year when Gutho was out. Then when Cleary went out, I'm like, well, Talagi's going to be 5'8" moving forward, and Jack Cole will move into halfback. They've overlooked him for, albeit a very, very talented kid. Name escapes me embarrassingly, but you could name
Trent Tolu?
Tolu, I think so. Yeah, tore up the trials. Like looked $1 million against men when half the team was over in Vegas. So it's not like they're overlooking him for anyone. I like this kid. I think he's going to be the next star. I'm going to go out on a limb. I know, big call, Penrith's next superstar will be the star of the game. But I think he's under-delivered in his 3 games or 2.5 games thus far. So I want him to hear this, and I want him to shove it down my throat in a couple of weeks because I'm a huge fan of his. The Iongi swap is working for both teams by the look of it because he's looked pretty good for Parramatta, and I don't think Blaize Talagi's far off. But
I just think Blaize Talagi's injured and he'll be all right. Don't write off a kid. Like if you were just talking about like a kid where you go, oh yeah, maybe he's talented, maybe he's not. We've seen Blaize Talagi in an absolutely dreadful Parramatta team look $1 million. When he's fit and when he's ready to go, and Ivan Cleary will know exactly when that is, mate, he'll be unleashed.
There you go. Heard it here first. Speaking of unleashed, Terry, very nice. Ricky Stuart has come out and made it all about the referees for what, the first, maybe second time in history?
Mm.
I want to go first here. Canberra were despicable on Sunday night. They were lucky they weren't 20-0 down before Corey Horsburgh was sin bin. Then they completely folded when he was. 13-12 against Manly. I get it. You can concede tries. Ricky Stuart blaming the referees for this is a humongous cop-out. I'm so sick of him doing this. You knew it. You knew as soon as they lost that game or they were in the process of losing, you know he's there writing, this happened and Corey Horsburgh was, even though it was a 10-6 again and he was 4 meters offside and definitely stopped a certain try. Apart from that, though, they were the victims. And then you got the Crawleys and running in to say how brave he is and how he should be allowed to show his emotions in the press conferences. When a bloke like Fitzgibbon goes, what? And they're like, oh, no, don't say anything. I'm so sick of this same thing from Ricky Stuart. Even Canberra fans are like, we got beaten by 40 points and you want to blame a bloke with a whistle? Oh, I'm so over this.
I honestly think that the first interpretation from Ricky Stuart about Corey Horsburgh was wrong, and his first blow-up shouldn't have been about the sing bin. It should have been about the obstruction.
Yep.
Because I've gone back and watched that, and I just think that was a crock of shit, that call, and the try should have stood.
Yep. Completely said.
All right, and that's just my opinion on that. Like, we got told in the preseason that the video referees were going to be allowed to adjudicate on common sense when it came to the obstruction. And the first thing they could have done is say common sense says that had no bearing on it whatsoever because Cherry-Evans still turned around and made a good chase to it. Anyway, the fact, though, that Corey Horsburgh didn't clear the ruck, was down on his knees, then stood up and tackled a bloke who was literally going to score a try, regardless of the fact that it was the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10-6 again in a row, it's a professional foul. That is a sin bin any day of the week. And the minute that he did that, I said sin bin.
Mm.
I think everybody who watched that said that's a sin bin. Manly fans would have been like, that's a sin bin. And Canberra fans are like, Jesus Christ, I hope they don't sin bin him. That was a sin bin. Right? And he turns around and he goes, oh, I don't understand the rules. Well, quite clearly, you don't understand the rules, Ricky, because that is as blatant a sin bin as it comes.
I want to ask you something, Terry, because you're more the rules guy than I am. You like to read, I like to write. Where in the rugby league rules does it say the penalty counts have to be similar?
Well, they don't. They don't. And this is the thing on years gone by when we saw the Roosters win 2 competitions in a row but be the worst disciplined team in the comp. And that was because back then they were happy to give away a penalty on their line to reset their defensive line. Now you can't do that anymore because they're just quick to do a 6 again. And if you hold down too long on the defensive line, instead of the referee giving a 6 again, well, he's just going to bin you because you've actually had to give away a professional foul to do that. So there is nowhere in the rule book that says, hey, just because they gave away 3 penalties, now you have to give away 3 penalties. Because the games are played at, completely different. Like if you're going to the edge and getting quick play the balls, you're more likely not going to get more 6 agains, whereas if you keep trucking up the middle, you're more likely to cop a high shot from retiring forward. So, yeah, Ricky Stuart, like, if the final score was like 20-18 and they conceded those 20 points when Horsburgh was in the sin bin, then maybe he would have had something to have a whinge about, but the game was over by the time Corey came back.
Or, because I tweeted that Ricky Stuart blamed the refs. It's easy cannon fodder for Twitter, blow my own secrets there. But the amount of people that were like, how are they supposed to win a game when you're defending your line and you had 60% possession against you? Stop giving away 6 agains. There's a reason they were doing it. Manly were dominating almost every tackle. Canberra forwards were tiring. They had to give away these penalties to slow them down or they would have got blown through. In hindsight, you probably think, God, if they score early, they kick off, Canberra probably get the ball. You don't see the sin bin, you don't get the 20 points. That's the risk you take. But when teams are on top of teams and they're winning to play the ball, penalties and 6 agains are going to eventuate. It's the same with the error count. Show me a game where the error count's exactly even and you're like, okay, it's an even game. You're always going to get them in clumps. So like Cronulla were flawless to start the other week, then gave them away later, so retiring and South got on top for a bit. That's how rugby league goes. There may be games that someone will point to and go, well, in 1977, it was a 7-0 penalty count. Teams are going to get momentum. They're going to run up penalties. And that's why people's ridiculous comments, they caught him up late or he's making up penalty count. Yeah, because they got the ball more, they're going to get more penalties. It's just the laziest cop-out to blame the refs and say, penalties need to be safe. Corey Horsburgh deserved to be sin bin. They got flogged and they were terrible.
The other thing that you mentioned about Crawley going to his defense saying he's brave, that wouldn't happen to do with anything about Crawley's brother being on the coaching staff.
I wouldn't know.
Absolutely.
But what I do know, mate, is that Braden Trindall is finally starting to get the respect he deserves. So much so that Billy Slater has brought him up as a potential Origin bolter to thinking, of course, that Daly Cherry-Evans is going to retire from rep football because then he can say to his next club, I'll be available all season. Pay me, pay me, pay me. Trindall, there or thereabouts or not quite yet?
Absolutely. Name me another Queensland halfback.
Tom Dearden.
He's not a halfback.
No, he's not. He'll play halfback outside Cam Munster.
Okay, so this is the thing you have to look at though. If Queensland, being a Queenslander, if Queensland go into an Origin series with Tom Dearden 7, Cam Munster 6, New South Wales 3-0.
Yep.
The
only other one that I'll put against him is currently in a sling, in being young, not Sandon Smith, Sam Walker, who of course,
no, not a sling. He's in the knee brace.
Who won't play? Yeah, knee sling, a brace. Who won't? You've had enough. You know better than me. He can't play this year. I saw some people go out. Trindall's not even close. Are you kidding me? Yeah. He played like Pete Lockyer. He kicked Sydney off the park. He's had 3 good games. And don't forget last year's final series where he took Tom Dearden apart in putting the Sharks through to a prelim. I think it'd be disrespectful to leave him out of conversations.
Yeah, I honestly think one point in time this year, like he's going to get called up into the Queensland 20-man squad this year. And it wouldn't surprise me because of how well he defends and how big of a body he is if he's not the 18th man, because he can cover 6, 7, 9, 13.
He can. He's playing exceptionally well for Cronulla. We've seen him form a great relationship with Nico Hines. Again, during the week, Nico's got to be the dominant half. Trina's got to be the dominant half. Why? The best thing you can have is 2 dominant halves, Terry.
Yeah, but and people turn around and say, Nico put the Q in the rack with the kicking, the long field kicking. Yeah, because his mate just kicked 2 40-20s in 5 minutes.
You give it to the hot hand.
Let him boot it.
Exactly. Trindall.
We watched the 2018 Jersey Flegg Grand Final, and the one thing that everybody said about that game, Cronulla fans and Penrith fans turned around and said the difference on that day was not the centers, the Cronulla centers who were monsters, Jordan Samrani and Bronson Zeri, and everyone was like talking about, these 2 centers and Daniel Vasquez and all those guys in there. the man of the match that day was Braden Trindall. Because anytime Penrith got themselves with a little bit of defensive possession, Trindall kicked them out of trouble. He has got the biggest boot in the club, and he's got one of the biggest boots in the NRL.
Did remember the New South Wales Cup? Kyle Flanagan couldn't get the Jets or premiership. Trindall came in and led him to a title and a state championship. Now he's taking Cronulla to a prelim. Probably as a dominant half. If I'm being serious, you look at the price. He's on what, $650 a year, and Dylan Brown's getting paid double. That's good business. That is very good business,
great business,
especially when you factor in the fact that he could be playing Origin.
I'm glad he signed that deal before. I'm glad he signed that deal before Dill did.
Yeah, 100%. And before it, because if he's still off contract now, he could probably add another $150K, and it's going.
Oh, if he's still off contract right now, Cronulla can't keep him.
Yeah, he's probably going to get a 900. I can't believe the disrespect to this kid. I think he may not play Origin this year, but it would not shock me at all if he's in that setup come Origin time.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Knock On Podcast, brought to you by the good people of Zero Tackle, your one-stop shop for everything rugby league. We've got breaking news, the best stories, the best freelance independent writers, led by my colleague, Mr. Dan Nichols. And Dan, you're stirring the pot. We're in round 3 and you're stirring the pot. What have we got this week? Have we got some power rankings?
We do. They'll drop tomorrow. The number one's pretty obvious. It's Melbourne. But from there, who knows? You'll have to click and check out. And number 17's the Eels. Making some news. Tomorrow, Terry, I'll be going into work and working very, very hard if anyone's watching. But otherwise, I'll putting together a list of 7 potential replacements for Daly Cherry-Evans. Because I'm calling it now. He's not playing at Manly next year. And he ain't retiring. So they're going to need someone to come in and replace him. Look out for that. Scott's also got a 5 landing destinations for DCE. He beat me to it, as is his right. That'll be fun to see. I look forward to critiquing that. But other than that, mate, we just can talk some rugby league, and who knows, by the time we hit end of recording here, another story might have broken.
If Scott's written it, make sure, Phoenix, that you use the spell check.